Have you ever played a match where you had low deaths, played well, and farmed up, but by minute 25, the enemy team has double your farm, your teammates have 10 deaths each, and you just lose? Well, I just finished 2 VOD reviews of high Ascendant players, and they both lost their game for the exact same reason. And it's the reason why most players feel like their games are completely out of their control. And I'm going to tell you what the big mistake that they both made was, and what smaller mistakes are making you lose your games. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode of Shotty's Yap Session. If you guys are new here, this is a series where I yap about a topic, and you turn me on in the background while you do something else, or if you really want to, you can watch the mid-gameplay. Let's get right into it. Now, before we can talk about what the big mistake they made was, we have to talk about what other smaller mistakes led up to it. Because a lot of people don't realize it's not just, oh, well, I played so well, I died one time, we lost the game. There's usually smaller mistakes and big opportunities in matches that most people don't see. So first, you have to decide what's your role and how you should be playing your role. For example, if you're a 7, most of your job is get to endgame, where you can scale to 30k farm, 40k farm, and just pretty much win. Compared to, let's say, someone like a Rem, your job is pretty much steal sinners, get farm, support your team. And the problem is, people don't realize that how much you fight also depends on your role. There are characters that are just meant to be fighting almost the whole game. They rotate for boxes, then they go see someone in lane, kill them, rotate for boxes again, and just kind of rinse and repeat that the entire game. For example, Mina. Mina can run around, blow up someone's health bar, steal their sinners, steal their farm, steal their camp, steal whatever, and just leave. And there's almost nothing you can do about it, because once she hits her 2, she flies up on a roof and you just never catch her. Compared to someone like 7. He's kind of just, he's not really the most mobile, so he just holds down a lane, right? He'll hold down a side lane, farm camps, survive. So you have to decide what your role does and what you should be doing with your spikes, with your strength, with your character in general. But a big mistake I see is people who don't fight on carries. One of the biggest things you'll see, and actually it wasn't in my examples, like my 2 games I reviewed I was talking about, they weren't actually carry characters, but carry characters make this mistake the most, which is never fighting, right? You should not just farm bot the entire game, which we'll get more into later because it's a big part of the big mistake they made. But for now, you also have to think about winning versus losing lane, and if your teammates won or lost their lane. Because if you win lane, it's almost your job, especially in public matches, to roam. It's your job to go do something with the farm. Even if you're a carry, in my opinion, if you hit spikes ahead of the enemy team, your job is to go do something with it. Because if you leave them alone, and especially if the enemy team fights a lot, you're going to get out farmed 100% of the time. Now, I'll explain that a little better in a little while, but first, what do you do if you lose lane? If you lost lane, your job is learning how to macro properly, right? Losing lane isn't that big of a deal if you know how to get boxes, know how to get camps, farm lane, and how to min-max all of it and rotate for all of it without putting yourself in danger. Because what I'll see is a lot of people who lose lane, and there's a 100% chance your teammates do this every game, which is why you need to roam. But when people lose lane, they just keep running it down. Like, you know what? You know that Geist that beat me 17 times and I already have 8 deaths in 2 minutes? You know what? I'm gonna go fight her again. I'll win this time for sure. And then they just run it down. Maybe they push up lane and they're like, you know what? I'm just trying to push the wave to the Guardian. Meanwhile, they're trying to push the Guardian when they're at 6k farm and everyone else is at 12. It's like, there's 0 chance you're getting that Guardian, and even if you do, it's not worth it. A Guardian's like, what, 400 souls? Why are you running it down for a Guardian? But a lot of people will do it. So when you lose lane, your job is sit there, farm up, and catch back up. Once you catch up, then it's your job to look for opportunities. Because the mistake I'll see is someone will catch up and farm, and then just keep farming. And in my opinion, it's a throw, especially in public matches. You need to look for opportunities. You need to constantly be looking for a chance to tip the scale. Because if we put everything even, right? If we say I won lane and they lost lane, but they lost lane and got 3 kills after they lost lane, and I won lane, but I just stayed in jungle and farmed. They have all the same opportunity for jungle on their side of the map that I do. They get the same amount of waves. They get the same amount of everything, which means those kills they get are the only way that they can outscale me. That's why it's good that they got them, because now there's nothing I can do and I just lose. And what you'll see is plenty of people have 2 kills in a game and maybe 5 kills, right? And maybe 2 deaths, and everyone else on their team has 15 deaths. But the problem is, if you have 5 kills and 3 deaths or 2 deaths, you probably weren't fighting in most of the team fights. You probably avoided most team fights and tried farming up, and you didn't really get to get anywhere. So the other thing is, when you win lane, you start roaming, you shut down other players, and you try to maintain your lead with smart fights. Because there's always going to be someone who pushes up too far or is in their jungle and not paying attention, right? One thing I notice in, I would say, below Oracle, honestly, below Phantom too, nobody invades jungle properly. What you'll see is, if you watch an enemy, a lot of enemies farm mindlessly. They just see a camp and they just sit there taking as much damage as they can and just trying to kill the minion or kill the camp. The problem with that is, you're a free kill. Let's say I'm a Mina. I walk into your jungle, one-shot you and leave. And there's a lot of opportunities like that, even when you're not Mina. There's plenty of characters that can do it, especially if you just have the soul lead. So looking for those opportunities when you win or after you've lost and farm back up. And the last thing with winning and losing lane is your teammates. Make sure you help your teammates, because there's a 100% chance, not 90, not 95, not 80, 100% chance that your teammates will lose lane and then run it down after they lose lane instead of farming back up like I told you to. So you need to be the scale tipper for them. Now, the other big mistake is enemy team fighting a lot. You'll notice in the games that you lose and you feel helpless the most, the enemy team is constantly fighting. And in the meta we're in right now, it's pretty much buy trophy collector, win the game. Even before this meta, kills were still extremely useful if you did them correctly. There's a bit of a balance to it, but fighting will net you more souls if you do it correctly than farming. Because some characters, for example, Mina, can get a kill very quickly and then go back to what she was doing, right? So if you're able to get a kill, or if the enemy team's able to get a kill on, let's say, your 7 or your carry or just anyone, they get maybe 400 souls from that, depending on how grouped up they are. They might get more, they might get less, but they also get a trophy collector stack now. And all things even, you have the same amount of jungle, you have the same amount of boxes, you have the same amount of everything. Trophy collector now, since it's being bought every single game, especially by higher ranked players, trophy collector will always guarantee the team that has more players with trophy collector is going to win, pretty much, because they're going to have so many more souls. Actually, I haven't not bought it in a single game, and almost every game by the 30-minute mark, I've already generated an entire tier 4 item of revenue, not just, oh, well, it costs 1,600. No, I will generate 7,000, 8,000 by 30 minutes because I'm fighting early, fighting often, and outscaling the enemy team. So you have to decide, is the enemy team fighting a lot? If they're fighting a lot, you have to be there sometimes. Don't be there when, oh, I just lost lane, I need to farm back up. But you have to be there because there's a 100% chance your teammates are going to fight it and going to lose. So I tried to explain this even when I used to coach Rivals. I used to coach Rivals, and I coach over 600 players for just Rivals. And one of the things I tried to explain to people was, even in team games, it's not really a team game because there's so much that weighs on you. If you're not at the fight, you can bet every penny you own that the enemy team will win the fight and your teammates will do negative damage. Most games will feel like, especially team games or hero shooters or anything, is my team doing anything? That's just how it goes. Every game is going to feel like, what is my team doing? So you need to be there always if you can. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're right lane and they're fighting left lane, don't just go completely out of your way and by the time you rotate, the fight's over. Go for a walker then. Go for something else. But if you don't do something always, you're going to lose. And that leads into the big mistake I talked about. Both of the high ascendant players, they both made the exact same mistake. Macro-wise, great players. Positioning-wise, great players. Everything was really good. They were good. But they lost by 30 minutes and they had maybe 3 deaths, 2 deaths, whatever. And their entire team had 15. Of course, 15 is an exaggeration, but you get what I mean. They played well. Their teammates threw. But when we watched the video, every soul they got, the enemy team probably got 3. So it didn't matter how perfect their farm was because they were not in the fights. They were not helping. They were just farming. And on paper, they did great. They had great souls per minute. They were surviving. They were positioning well. Most of the fights they got out alive. They tried running objectives, but they just weren't fighting. And if you don't fight, which don't get me wrong, it's very easy to take bad fights versus good fights. But if you don't fight in this game, you're just going to lose because you're completely at the mercy of how much does the enemy team fight and how well does my team fight when they're fighting. Because if you get in a game where people don't know how to fight well, because I've noticed a lot of people in Deadlock just kind of play just a MOBA, right? Just the macro side of a MOBA, which, yeah, macro's important, but most people don't think about their positioning or fight hygiene or peeking and all that. That all goes into this game. If you've ever seen a high Eternus lobby, the way they play corners and they play angles or just even right hand versus left hand peaks, they're always taking angles pretty much that are advantageous. Most of them aren't just running straight down the middle of a corridor running at you. They're going to take side angles, off angles, high, low, whatever, and just try to position as if they're playing a shooter game, not just a MOBA. And most players don't understand that. So if you understand that, you need to be the one at the fight helping, because there's a 100% chance your teammates don't understand it. So the big explanation is, for every soul you farm, or assuming all things are equal, your enemy team, if they're fighting, gets triple your souls. Always. And I actually watched over one of my games because I was like, I lost this game and I felt like I was playing amazing, but I was Viper, right? I came out of jungle as Viper probably around 20 something minutes. By the time it was 20 something minutes, everyone on my team had already created monsters. There was a 35k 7 on the enemy team with 12 kills somehow. Now, you tell me how a 7 gets 12 kills in 20 minutes? I don't know, but it didn't matter because I farmed way too much. I did not get in the fights and we lost. And it happens more than you think. A lot of people do this. And if you feel like you're making mistakes and you just don't know what they are, or you need some help figuring it out, check out the top link in the description. You can join my lock-in tier and get a VOD review from me and get my aim routine and any other guides I have. And speaking of aim, check out this video to master your aim. I love you guys. Have a good one. God bless you.